The busted wand clattered pathetically across the floor. Even the sound of it breaking and falling was unimpressive. Lately I'd been down on my luck purchasing magical tools. Either the man selling them doesn't know how to quality check enchanted items, or he's trying to scam wizards out of their gold. Just a few hours ago, I came home with a box of 20 or so wands I didn't bother to count. So far, only 3 of them are actually worth keeping. 6 of them were carved from dead wood, so they were dry and brittle, hardly able to withstand a flick of the wrist. Another 2 were fashioned out of what I initially thought was tin but turned out to be silver. Common misconception about that metal. A lot of people think it's good to use magic in, but in truth, it absorbs magic like a starved sponge, hence why it's used to make weapons that harm magical beings. One was made from gold with an iron core for rigidity. Very fancy, impressive craftsmanship, and the right metals to infuse magic in, but it hadn't been enchanted at all. That rather defeats the point of buying a wand pre-made. If I were going to enchant it myself, I'd have made it myself. The one I just threw away was the epitome of pathetic. I waved it once, and all it did was spurt out 2 sparks and some smoke, not even hot enough to light my pipe. I waved it again, and the wood bent and cracked from the standard motion. I sigh and return to my desk. The 3 wands that cleared my check sit on one side, while the box sits on the other with 7 wands yet to be tested still in it. Running a hand through my beard, I contemplate if it's even worth checking them. The 3 wands that work only have basic spells in them, and the rest were ultimately useless. One of the wands would shoot out an arrow that vanished a few seconds after hitting something. Useful for self-defense. One conjured a candle flame at its tip that burned hotter than a fire that small had any right to. Also good. And the third would create small spheres of ice within water. Not the most practical, but useful for refreshing my drinks. Anyway, I'd better check the next wand. I pull one out blindly and look it over. It's a simple shaft of metal, likely iron, that's adorned to look like something a magician would use. I'd like to not even humor such an insult to real magic, but there's an odd chance it actually has something useful in it. With a flick of the heavy thing, an orb of dim light flies out. The glow is steady and hardly brighter than a candle flame. Not a preferred source of light here in my study, but it may prove useful in the forest or in my basement where potion fumes made it dangerous to use fire. I'll hold on to this one. The next wand is a waste of time. I'm not even going to test this thing because it's clearly another silver one. I can tell from the feel and the faint smell. I grab the next wand. Wood, possibly oak. Not the best wood to use for a wand, most likely an apprentice's craft. I give it a uniform flick, and some bright sparks fly out, some shaped like stars or butterflies. Pretty, but useless. Definitely an apprentice's first wand. Another for the junk pile. My fingers pinch around the next one. An odd design for certain. Its twisted handle sits in the middle of 2 longer ends. One fades into a skeletal spine look, adorned at the tip with a small human skull. The other end is adorned with a hand-carved tree design. The strange construction of this wand drives a suspicion. I give it a flick, and a purple flame shoots out from the skull, but at the same time, a wooden spike shoots out the other end and hits my robe. Thankfully, I'm unharmed. A double-sided wand. 2 spells, 1 for each end. An interesting concept, but also a safety hazard, as demonstrated here. Oftentimes, when one tried to use a double-sided wand, they'd end up casting both spells at once, with one shooting at the user. I toss the hazardous thing aside and retrieve the wooden spike that shot out the back end, adding it to the pile. Without looking, I grab one more wand from the box. Another wood one. This time the wood feels treated. I can't quite tell what kind of wood it is because of the treatment, but it seems to have some degree of quality to it. But the quality of the wand itself is not what I'm interested in. I give a sharp flick. Nothing happens. I flick it again. Still nothing. I inspect the wand, and as I move it, a faint blue light trails behind the tip. Perhaps this one requires a gentler hand. Twirling it gradually produces the same light, which radiates not only from the wand itself, but also a chair I have set across the room, which has started moving in tandem with the wand. A manipulation spell. Very useful. I hadn't expected to find many good wands in this set, which brings a smile to my face. Still, it's not worth the 20 gold I spent. I'll check one more wand, then stop for now. I pull out a very intimidating one, black wood with a red gem nestled in the tip. Possibly the materials were brought in from the Scar, a scorched wasteland that streaks across the continent to the east. I'd not heard of a wand like this, or anything made from things in the Scar for that matter. Would this thing even hold together? You'd think the scorched trees there would be brittle, but this wand is holding together well. And what's the redstone capping the tip? I've seen rubies before, and this seems like something different. I flick the wand, and a ring of red light shoots out. It hits the wall at the end of my chamber, scorching a perfect circle into the stone bricks and setting a hanging banner aflame. I panic and retrieve one of my own wands from a drawer, casting a harsh spray of sea mist to put the fire out. The banner is left smoldering, but at least my tower won't burn down today. This Scar wand is enchanted with a dangerous spell. I should probably lock it up to be safe. 2 wands left, and both look unimpressive. Just plain shafts of wood, one probably birch, the other smells of pine. They're both carved the same, so they probably were made by the same person. I take them both out to inspect. The only difference between them, other than the color, is a tiny inscription on their handles. The pale wand reads, "The king in need of his queen," while the dark reads, "The queen in need of her king." I'm not sure if this is right, but a suspicion hits my mind. I flick one, nothing happens. I flick the other, nothing happens. I hold both and flick them, nothing. I wave them, nothing. I cross them, they both light up. Veins of blue adorn the pale wand, while orange ones course through the dark. As I half expected, these wands need each other to activate. I flick the pale one, and a bolt of light flies out, forming a crystal of ice at the point of impact. The blue light fades from the wand. A flick of the other shoots a jet of flame and drains the orange glow. Tapping them together restores the light, and they can cast their respective spells again. Clever design, a symbiotic enchantment that requires finesse with both hands, or a partner to use. I'll hold on to these as well. All in all, not a total waste of my 20 gold. I'd added a few interesting options to my collection, and some may even fetch a good price if I decide to sell. The others, well, my fire always needs kindling, and I can always melt down the useless metal for pot hooks.